Assalamu alaikum. We're learning the Sicha of Balak Dalet, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the Teres Menachem of this Farbrengen, very, very interesting. And I'll also share some insights on the topic that the Rabbi brings up that we learned at the end of the Sicha. It's something that was very important in the Rebbe's Torah, but not necessarily do many people really understand the context. So here we go. So the Rebbe spoke about, it was Shabbos Parshas Balak Yudal Tamas Tavshin Chav Gimel. We spoke about what it says in the Avtzon, and the Rebbe said that the Avtzon is the end of the parsha because the word of Avtzon literally means the end. Regarding the beginning of the time of Geulah and the end of the preparations for the Geulah Shlema, similar to what the parsha talks about, that it was the Bnei Yisrael standing just before the entrance of Eretz Yisrael. Also, the fact that the Rebbe said that the parsha talks about the Geulah Shlema in the prophecies of Bilam. And the Avtzon says, they're not going to need the help or aspire from anybody. And the Rebbe says that's the way it has to be b'seif zman hagolus. And this is also the answer to those who ask about our matzav in today's day and age. Because we're not in a situation that's lo yikavalish. We still need people's help and intervention. We rely on people, and we even need the goyim. So Rabbi said that itself is a proof that we're not in the level of Ischalta de Geulah, and we're still in Galus, and we're still in an incredible Galus. And that's what I'm going to sit on in just a moment. The Rebbe went on to explain that in time of Galus, we need to deal with deal with whatever we, with action. But nevertheless, the Teva Olam doesn't have to grab any space. It's only a vehicle through which to fulfill Hashem's will. And then besides B'tochen, besides the fact that you need Abitach, the world does not stand against Torah mitzvahs. The whole thing is Avodas Hashem, Kama Sechel L'Shem Shamayim, etc. The Rebbe says on the idea that Mamin B'chai Olam B'Zeh, that you have incredible bitach and you believe in the Eibush and therefore you plant. The Rebbe said so much so that the nature of the world is that when you plow, it leads to growth. But still, for the person that's in a sign, in other words, you realize that you still have to believe. That you shouldn't be mispelled the fact that's the nature of the world, but rather you know that because of your emunah, you believe in the Eibush. I want to just talk about for a moment on Ischalta de Geulah. By the way, later on, the Rebbe went on another Sicha, which was combined into the Sicha that we learned, the whole idea about Pa'er, and it was also combined in a Sicha in Chelek Dalid of Likud Sichas. So, basically, when the Israeli state was established in 1948, there was a major debate how to define the establishment of the state. And some people from the religious Zionist community, many, Geulah Yisrael, but from that community, they saw the beginning of the formation of the state as what they call Ischalta de Geulah, the beginning of the Geulah. And the Rebbe, especially in the early years of the Messias, this is relatively still early, Tavshin Chav Gimel, the Rebbe would bring it up many times and fiercely and passionately go against it. And actually, the Rebbe would use Lashonos that says that it almost causes the continuation of the Galus. We see even like in our 53, in our Sicha, that the Rebbe says that's a double Galus, a double Galus, because people think that that's a Ischalta de Geulah. And that itself is an incredible choshech. And that's the ultimate hiding, that you don't even realize that this is not Geulah. And it's very much connected to the idea that the Rebbe saw the establishment of a state as, at least once it happened, as a functionary thing. It's something that's important. There's millions of Yidden living in Eretz Yisrael. They need to have a government. And the government has to, defend the things of Shleimus Haaretz, Shleimus HaTorah, Shleimus Yisrael, Shleimus Ha'am. But nevertheless, the government itself does not have an intrinsic holiness. It's a government, it's a function. Versus this Ischalta de Geulah perspective, which says, no, the government and the state, and everything that the state symbolizes, the symbolism of the state, etc., has inherent holiness as a precursor to the Geulah Shlema. The Rebbe fiercely, and as I said earlier, like literally went very against it and saw it as a huge, huge problem. The Rebbe would point out countless times when the Rebbe would talk about Shleimus Haaretz issues, or Yehudi issues, or other issues about Eretz Yisrael, they would say, and still there's people that believe that this is Ischalta de Geulah, this is the beginning of the Geulah. The the Rebbe did see certain things that happened in the world as signs of the Geulah. The Rebbe, even in the last Sicha, the Rebbe verbringt about in Parshas Vayakal Tavshin and Beis, that was spoke about the idea of Yidden all moving to Eretz Yisrael. That was at the time that the Russians were moving to Eretz Yisrael after the fall of the Soviet Union, as part of a process. But the establishment of the state and the branches of the state and the government and what they do, etc., was not, in the Rebbe's view, any part of the Geulah, and the Rebbe vehemently fought against seeing it that way, because when you see, when you turn Cheshach into you turn into Cheshach. L'chaim u'l'shalom.